Hey guys, I know it's black. Give me a second. You have to pull up the share after you go live. So give me one moment. There we go. Share an image with you here. Make sure it's sharing. All right, cool. We talked about this a little bit the other day. It came up as an artifact that a certain cult was looking for. Let me go ahead and I'm going to do a short story time here to lead into a few things. Hopefully I'll remember what I wanted to talk about. Okay, I do got this stuff pulled up. All right, now let me. Can you see me? And kinda, sorta. Okay, cool. It's good enough for me if it's good enough for you, I hope. All right. So, a couple disclaimers. Number one, I never usually don't throw people on the bus, under the bus. I won't give real names or pictures of people usually online. So don't worry about that. I see that I'm receiving some text messages because I gave a little notice of when I was going to go live. But guess what? My phone's not working. Surprise. So you can't really interrupt my strain of thought that way. Sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable. The next thing is I don't give the town that I live in, and I don't give the names of the places where I have worked. But I have been testifying to the strange things that have been occurring in my life for the last 5 or 6 years, only to highlight that there, one, is no such thing as coincidence, two, God is still working, and three, we are not alone here. So I'm going to do a short story time, and after the story time, I'm going to get into SuperBowl in Kansas City. But story time relates to current events because God is showing me in my area in a way that I can see it, what is happening. Now, does it mean these actual people are the Antichrist or what have you? I'm not sure, but I know the people we see on television are proxies. I'm going to pull up an image real quick because I want to show people who might not understand the concept. I'm going to bring up a Russian doll just to explain how this operates. An actual doll, not the movie. There we go. Okay, let's pull up this one. And this. Thank you guys for your patience. And then I am going to share this. Okay, so this is a Russian doll. You guys are seeing it, right? Yep. Okay. So that's a Russian doll. Oops. Now, this is basically how our world operates. There is, I believe the people we see on screen are proxies, right? So that would be the first or the biggest Russian, the one that all the other ones are inside of. So this would be like the media, right? The umbrella of the media. And this would be politics, right? And underneath of politics would be like human behavior slash like secret organizations, how humans like organize or whatever. But under that, you get to the spiritual part when you dig a little further. So I believe that, for example, Trump or Elon Musk is a proxy for somebody else who is controlling him behind the scenes. But how many proxies are there? I think it's like a beehive. They say hive mind and legion for a reason. So when I say, in my area, or I was told, so and so is the Antichrist, why is this happening in my area and to me? God asked me to be a witness, and I don't know what else to think. Now, when I tell you my story times, it's to show you I'm not BSing. I'm not hallucinating. These are actual beings looking like humans that I'm interacting with who are doing very strange things. And I'm going to get into something before we segue that's really important regarding health. So let me get this out real quick. I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. You should seek the advice of your chosen professional. This is my testimony, what has happened to me, what has not worked for my body. And just so you know, I have been in I was, as far as food service goes, I think I have like 7 to 8 years experience. I've been in banking. I was in that for like 3 years. And then I was in telecommunications for like the rest of my working life. And I've worked in every area of food. I've served, I've prepped, I've bussed, I've bartended and hosted and cooked as well. So I've done kind of things behind the scenes. And when I was in telecommunications working with cell phones, I was a subject matter expert. So when I say certain things, follow up, do the research, check out what I'm saying, because there are only certain things you can say on here. I don't personally believe in censorship, but I want the channel and the videos to stay up as long as they can, to help somebody else who may say, wow, this is all really weird. Why is all this stuff happening to me all of a sudden? Now I'm taking care of my dog and I'm in a lot of pain, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And we're going to segue back to the cobra. Now, this was brought up the other day as being an artifact that one of the secrets, one of the old Babylonian societies was looking for. First of all, I know you all watch my channel because the next day, a young man known as Golden Boy, who is very tall, came in wearing a hat with a golden cobra on it and ruby red eyes. The day after, we talked about that on the channel. That's not a coincidence, right? So I know certain things are being done just to gaslight me. So I guess I will start at yesterday, and then when I need to like flashback, I will. It's not going to be too long. Give me a minute, because again, it relates to maybe Baron Trump and or the Antichrist. So hold please. I'm drinking creatine out of a copper cup. I already had a bike ride this morning. This is a good thing to do. You should research it. Every video, I try to show you what I do, and then I have a filtered water bottle. I don't really drink tap water unless it's my creatine. And I don't eat animals anymore for a variety of reasons. I'm not telling you what to do, right? I'm not. I know how people feel about their meat, but in this time, there is a reason things are tasting different. So you should be very careful. Here's the thing. I was fired. I'm not going to tell, and let me get this out real quick. I'm not mad at all. Like, it feels like a blessing, right? Like God's will. It seems to be God's will. And I don't know if it was especially God's will that I went in there at the time I did in the way that I did. But then I was committed, right? And I was shown a lot, though, as far as what's going on and what's happening in our world. So let me kind of go over all the strangeness at that job. I will super condense it. I will make it very brief. These are things I've already gone over. Some of them are new and just happened yesterday. So I lost my job. Now, this was by a woman who I had admired and respected and kind of feared in a way, because she reminded me of my aunt. And I love my aunts to pieces. They're like my big sisters, but sometimes, as little sisters do, I would get on their nerves a lot, maybe say things that were inappropriate, hurt their feelings. But I hope they would give me grace these days and understand that I was a lot younger than them. And even now, because of how sheltered I've lived my life and how sheltered those around me have kept me, I'm not as socially experienced as everybody else. So I don't always know like what's okay to say and what's not okay to say. But I also totally believe that at times it is the Holy Spirit bringing things forth, because it just comes out, right? So I was fired, and this is a woman I already said looked like my aunt. And I told her, I said, wow, man, you really like behave and look and kind of like really remind me of my aunt. But she she wasn't one of those ones who was like a double or a doppelganger, right? She just really resembled her. Um, Almost like it was her, but with like plastic surgery, but not, it looked natural. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know how to explain it. She had my aunt's spirit, like the same kind of same body type. It was just weird, okay? And I looked up to her and I was very like anxious. I would ask her all the time because I knew what was happening. I knew that these kids, some of them were children of Masons. Their families own businesses. What are you doing working at a pizza shop then, right? But it's good that their parents want them to work. My mom had a business and we were by no means not even well off. She was not very good with money. Um, so I understand that much. She never brought me into anything like that. My mom piggybacked, much like is happening to me now. She piggybacked on me and like would get information out of me and then use that out in the world or the community. Do you know what I mean? Like if I would say, it's going to rain tomorrow, or hey, Uncle so and so is going to call you. I dreamt about him last night. And I should have never told her any of this. But I was a child. I didn't know, like, you don't throw pearls at swine. I had no concept of that. Um, so this woman reminds me of one of my aunts who goes in and out of my life. Like I'm always trying to bring the women in my family together, like to be some type of mediator or facilitator for them to, reconcile. But it never goes well, especially when there's three women. There's always one on the outs, and there's always like those two can gossip about each other all they want. But if you say something out of turn, like then they jump on you, right? And that's what was starting to happen the last week or two at work. It was very mean girl esque. Just a lot of whispering behind corners. And this woman, I admired her because she never lost her cool with the young people. She was very patient. You could tell like she probably was in the military in the service because she was very disciplined. She was not very ladylike, kind of like me. Uh, she was very competent and efficient and just good at her job, right? Because she's managing two restaurants allegedly. Um, but since about Christmas time, as I've told you before, she had changed. Uh, I know because I was working there. I got a piece of mail that I had to put in her envelope, and it was from the DoD. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now remember, I'm not giving names here, not giving addresses, locations, nothing. All right. The only one I'm really throwing under the bus is myself at this point. Um, I would be a target, and I don't have any eyes on me, so it would probably be pretty easy to get rid of me if I were not blessed by God. Thank you, Lord. So I really looked up to her, but around Christmas time, she had started changing, and I had like went in the back or took trash out or something, and I came back in, and she was on the line, and it's a very small restaurant, and it's very old, and it's like falling apart, and that plays a part in this. And I heard her say to the young man that she sometimes gives rides to, the young man whose mother has a name that my husband one night said out of nowhere. This is all connected, right? Like it's a small town, but I don't drive, so I don't. It's very easy to keep things from me. Um, it would be very easy for them to play out the end of the world for me right here, not knowing anything, unless I did leave, which like it might come to this spring because I just can't. This is madness. Um, but it's super fascinating, like watching the human behavior and how much people are I don't even know if they're aware all of the time. It's like something else takes over. Here's my thing. I think people were chipped already. Not knowingly. I think that since like 2017, surgeries and outpatient things and anything that required anesthesia or invasive like um, scalpel stitches, that type of thing, uh, protrusions, anything that would require somebody going under the skin. I think these were already put into people, some people. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me or anything. But the book says, he will causeth all to receive the mark, both rich and poor, both old and young, both tall and short, or something like that. I can pull up the verses as well if you'd like me to. I'm telling you this story time because, again, I am sheltered. I don't know a lot about politics, but I do know a lot about human behavior and lying. It's very easy to tell when people around you are acting. And they used that phrase again yesterday, bad actors. They're telling you that everything they're doing on the screen is a show. Here's the thing. For example, like Event 201, everyone said, oh my, CV is Event 201 was their practice, right? That's them telling us or whatever. And then CV happened in 2019, or The Simpsons predicted it or whatever. What if none of it's real? None of it, as far as that goes. When it talks about current events, right? And things happening, what if it's all just to keep us in our little boxes or in our little spots or in our own zones, so we don't travel too far and start seeing things maybe that they don't want some of us to see? Because a lot is coming out at this time and a lot is being shown, and I think they are doing a lot of damage control. And I don't think they can hide this because, again, the internet might be Satan's domain, like airwaves or whatever, but everything is God's. Like, he owns everything. So Satan just uses it, counterfeits it, copies it, corrupts it, right? Hold, please. So back to the story time so I can get it over with. And again, it does have a lot to do with what's happening. So I heard her say, I can't, to this young man whose mother has a name that my husband said out of nowhere a couple of years ago. And yes, I remember all of these things. I had a head injury, so there are certain things right before and right after that are wonky. But again, that's also related to being under hypnosis against my will. And I think a lot of these things have broken these chains and these bounds that they had me in, and learning how to say no and learning about consent. All of these things now, it's very hard for them to manipulate me. They have to get me to consent to something to go along with it. Oh, and a reminder for any of you that are watching, she said something really weird as she was about to fire me. Because I said, so and so was watching labor, like we do, like he always does. I told him to. I said, yeah, okay, I didn't tell him not to. My point is, this woman who I had admired, who was calm, always disciplined, seemed to have a thing in the military, who started changing around December, who I heard her say to this young man, I can't be here when she's here. I can't be here when Jen's here. And this is after I told her she looked like my aunt and this stuff. But she still comes sometimes, right, when I'm there. And she brought her kids the one day and she starts calling her daughter Daisy May. And I'm like, that's not her name. Why are you calling her that? Because mind you, that's my great grandmother's name. And it's also who I was originally named after, my first name. It's a long story. I have a lot of names. But I was named after my grandma Daisy. It was also the name I used when I was a dancer. I was called Daisy. And then we got this real little dog from a goat farmer, haha, whose name was Daisy. I don't call her that. So again, it's all of this is to like freak me out or make me scared or I don't know. It's very juvenile and I don't even know what to say at this point. The reason I'm telling you this is because the behavior, people's hearts have gotten cold. Scripture tells us that in the end days, hearts will grow cold. I can pull it up if you want, but I'm not really that person unless we're reading scripture that day. I try to bring people into the body of Christ just through testifying like this, just through saying, like, all this stuff is going on and it's not touching me. It's not able to seriously harm me, at least not yet, at least not while I'm safely tucked away in the body of Christ. So if I have New Agers that are watching me and I have a history with the New Age occult, I'm going to use that language that they understand. We have to be very careful. You have two polar opposites, and you're always going to have that, right? You're not going to know. And I should have known this. When I met my original spouse or whatever, after a time, he told me he didn't feel pain. He couldn't feel pain. And then I seen that he does feel it when it's extreme, but that he seems to enjoy it. I should have known right then. And I prayed and asked God when all this stuff was going on, what is he? Who is he? Tell me, because everything about him has changed. The way he eats, the way he sits, the music he listens to. Um, the more I complain about that, the more he like tries to behave like my spouse, but it's still weird. Anyways, everything changed. The way he kissed, and that only changes if you're with someone else, right? But I'm crazy for thinking that and for saying, hey, what are all these women's phone numbers doing in your phone, right? Um, that's when I started snooping. That's what he called it. That's when I got battered. I did not get traumatized, and then all these weird things started happening. I started asking questions about all the weird things that were happening, and I really want a cigarette. I'm sorry. It's traumatic to talk about these things. But at this point, the things that were happening at this workplace, it's laughable. Like, she didn't seem like herself at all. I've never seen her raise her voice and she was like yelling at me. And she's an adult, right? Anytime she has someone to talk to, like, hey, let's go talk, let's go chat. Usually it's outside, but if it's cold, she'll take them in the back, which again is a small place. She'll keep her voice really low, intentionally, I assume. Again, I admired her for this, for her work ethic and the way she treated us. But then she just started getting really different. And again, her husband does dough sometimes, but he stopped coming in as much. It started to be noticed that when I asked for rain, I got rain. And when I said, oh man, it's raining today, I really wish it would stop so I could ride my bike home in the sun. And when the sun came out, like, they started noticing this, right? And I noticed them noticing this because a couple people made comments. And then the other day, I realized that they call this young man Golden Boy. And he is very, very tall. And I think I offended him the other day. And I think like that was the last straw, because you don't offend Golden Boy. He has insinuated harming my dog so many times and harming me so many times. But I cannot go to the police. I went to them when some of these young men were in my home and something was put in my drink. And I woke up with bruises on the backs of my knees. I couldn't move my neck and my tongue was all swollen because I'd bit my tongue so hard because of whatever happened. And I was sore in areas I shouldn't be sore in. These are boys that I helped raise, basically, that I didn't meet their parents. They didn't care where they were. A lot of the mothers are gone, like Disney movies, right? Bambi. All the mothers, it's always the moms. Satan is really after, Lucifer is after women at this time, organic women. You see a lot of the problems I get at work. And I notice, how do I say this properly? I notice an intimate chemistry between some of them, going back and forth between 2 and 3 and 4, boys and girls, boys and boys. Okay? It's very easy to pick up on when you're the outsider in a group, right? These are all young people. They all have worked together for a while now. I think they live together. Here's my deal. I think they live in the apartments above where I work. And I don't think all of the parents are here anymore. I just don't. I've never met the guy who owns this restaurant. He has the same name as my son. My son has a t-shirt from there. He says he got it from his friend. I think all of these children of the Masons, all of these Nephilim children in this time, or hybrid children, whatever you prefer, man, again, this isn't to insult anybody. The point of this is, if you are living a lie and deceiving half of the population that you're living with, they are not going to trust you ever. They will never follow a leader who has deceived and lied to them intentionally for years. It won't happen. This is why there's a problem with the radical Rainbow Club, right? Rainbow hijackers, because they're harmful. I have never in my life harmed any of them. My brother and sister are in that segment, right? They're a part of LGBTQ+. I would never tell them, I might try to get them to like talk to God and like talk to me, because Again, it was obvious certain things were going on in their childhood. You try to talk to them about it, they won't talk about it. Um, there's a lot of that. Pay attention, observe things. People are not who they said they were for their entire time here. Now, either something has totally inhabited them at this point, or they were always like this, but now they're unable to hide it, or God is just pulling back that veil. I think it's all of the above. I do. Let me also say, did you hear that? That hurt. They work very well together. When they work and when they're able to actually listen and they don't think that they know it all, or that us old people are just old people who deserve to be called into some pit. Um, they do have murder in their hearts sometimes, but I think we all do in this society. We have to really work on cleaning out our internal lives and our thoughts. I know that's a problem for me because then it comes out my mouth, right? So I understand that that's an issue with me. I know that. And I know sometimes I blurt out things that are inappropriate. But again, I would ask for grace. I've not been around people, I've not socialized with anyone but the same 2 or 3 people for the last 6 years. And when I use the phone, I'd swear it's the same 2 or 3 people all the time, no matter what business I call. My life is very, it's me looking out. I can't look at my own life from the outside yet. Some people can. I'm not quite there yet. And it's a shame that other people know more about my life than I do. So, Golden Boy, the other day I had said, it's really good that you're learning a skill. I bet your parents are really proud of you because I like working with him. I don't have a problem with him. Um, but he has a problem with me. He would always mention my dog, say he saw my dog, and my dog recognizes his car and his name when I say it. And when we were outside and he drove by, he got excited, acting like, "Where are you going?" So let me also say this. I don't consent to anyone else being around my dog, training my dog, getting him to like maybe dislike women or a certain demographic. I know that they train dogs to be that way purposely, but now I'm home since I'm fired. You probably shouldn't have done that, right? Because at least then you had an eye on me better and you could make sure that I was like eating and not fasting, right? You see, I know you're my enemies. That's the problem. Because I love you. And I finally made it there, right? Like I realized I had a personal epiphany last night. I don't know if anyone's here, but I'm just gonna keep going because this is where my heart is, okay? Um, I had this epiphany that I have finally made it. The Sermon on the Mount. I love my enemies. I love every one of those kids that I work with, and not in a weird or physical way. Let me, again, because of their bloodline, everything is very literal to them. They don't always understand hidden. They give hidden innuendos, right? But theirs is more sarcasm. They don't always understand like analogies, metaphors, that type of thing. And I've gone over that. It's actually in scripture. It says they don't have the ears to hear the children that are not of God's kingdom. Um, but when you can make that choice to be of God's kingdom, I think their parents lied to them, because this is not a good area and it's not a good, Christ said none of us are good yet. But anyway, I had finally made it to the Sermon on the Mount where I loved every one of them. Um, the one who always drew little cartoon characters, she always made me feel comfortable, almost always. Reminded me so much of my son, so much. If he was in a better place, it would have been so awesome to see them like together. Um, anyways, uh, she taught me a lot, actually, right? And so I love you, like not, I love you like a sister or an aunt, right? Or a mom, second mom, of course, third, fourth, whatever. Uh, then there's the shorter girl. I'll call her Ginger because now she has her hair like that. And that's the other thing. The 2 people that I really got along with there really well. And one I could tell was kind of two-faced. But she's young. So it wasn't like, we all kind of do that, right? When somebody upsets us, we go to someone else and vent. We all gossip to a point. I try to steer it away or back to that person. Hey, why don't we go talk to them? Open communication. Um, and I refused to gossip with her the other day. But listen to how juvenile this gets. So I had noticed changes in both of these people. The one girl, who I'm calling Ginger right now, little short girl who I always snacked with and just goofed off with, but worked well with, right? Like we were a good team. Um, she changed too. She went on a camping trip, and I almost knew, like, I was like, be careful, be observant, because she was going with her alleged boyfriend. And there's something happening. My sister did it too. She went into the woods with this guy and came out different. So something is happening in those woods, if especially if you're not covered, right? If you're not hidden by the blood of Christ, protected by his shield, by the fire of the Holy Spirit, baptized. Baptism is so important. And I see so many wannabe pastors online skipping right over that. Like you need to be baptized. Christ was baptized. That's how important it is. You want to be like him, emulate him, do what he did. Um, and even Golden Boy, the really tall one, who is basically a proxy for Baron, or maybe Baron's a proxy for him. I don't know yet. It's just the curtain's just starting to fall completely for me. And it's very overwhelming, but it's kind of cool because I'm like, wow, I'm getting all the answers that I asked for, which means it might also be the time of an end for my ministry. And I might be going somewhere else. My dog needs me. Oh no. Let me keep going for a minute, and then I might like pause it for a second to go tend on him, just so when you rewatch it, there isn't like a long silence. For anyone who bounces in after, I apologize. So I had said to him the other day something about fairy tales, right? And they're already like, these kids, they don't watch TV, which is cool. They don't watch movies, which is fine. Um, so their pop culture from like 80s and stuff, like they're not. Generation Z, like they don't, music is their thing, but it's very low vibrational music, right? Suicide Boys, it's just very, like, that's what they're called. They sing about serial killers. And this woman, the last name, the one who reminded me of my aunt, her last name was a murderess. And the other lady, the older lady who visited me with the alleged Mormon girls. And again, I don't know if that was to make the church look bad or to make me scared of the church, or if they're just funky like that. Because some of their doctrine is very interesting. And I would love to sit down with one of their actual historians, like not these younger people, but somebody who knows the history. Um, but her last name was after a slasher on in movies. So I'm seeing like these patterns, right? And this tall boy, I really liked working with him. But I said the other day, I said something about fairy tales, and I said, "Didn't anyone ever read you stories before bed? Your mom never read you stories?" Because he has two mothers. He has a mom and a stepmom, and he says he likes them both, gets along with them both. His mother actually runs the apartment that I applied for above the pizza shop, where the UK flag was hanging. I did a video on that, and she said, "No, because of my dog." But that's also his mother. So something happens to Sam. He's always, making all these insinuations about him. And again, I think all these kids know each other behind the scenes. I know my son was always at this one young man's house. He's a brother to the boy that I work with who looks exactly like JD Vance. And if you'll notice, JD Vance's face seems partially edited or altered in some way. Okay? Just pause videos and look at him. And it's really obvious in some of them now. Some of the streamers are saying, "Oh, look at the demons." They're not demons, folks. They're not people. If you look at the edges real quick, some of them are really sloppy copy and paste jobs. It's to make it look like this event is big or this event is happening. I think the Pope is gone. I think he's been gone for a long time. The real one, somebody else took his place. Is that person deceased now? I don't know. The person that I took care of, who looked exactly like him, is deceased. What's weird is while I was in this and under this spell still, I never noticed that he resembled the Pope ever. Here and now, I'm like, oh my gosh. And his picture was on the fridge for the longest time, and suddenly it's gone. And I can't find it. And I can't. there's a lot of my family pictures that I had taken over the years because I wanted to. I have a big trunk of nothing but pictures. A lot of the important ones are gone. Like they're just going to erase me from the family. So if my son or one of these young men ends up being the five guys or the sons of perdition and the false prophet and the antichrist, I'm pretty sure he's going to say his mother's dead because the other the one's mother is deceased. The one who allegedly was told he is the antichrist, but he's the nicest of them all. He looks exactly like Caitlin Clark. And again, TV is not what you think it is. Those people don't live where they say they do. Do you really think these rich people with possible stalkers are going to give you their actual addresses? Do you think on those Hollywood tours, as crazy as some people are, do you think those people actually live in those houses? You've got to use your brain. Like this, everything is a set. Almost everything. All the events you see, they're always in the same big cities. But before those events, they always lock down those cities. There's always like a gas leak. There was before September 2001. I remember that. Nobody else does. I don't know if I could find the NPR. We listened to NPR like mad back then. I even got on the radio a few times. And they had said something about New York was some of the streets were closed off because there was a gas leak. And that was one of the times when it hit me. I was like, oh, I've dreamt of this. Because I dreamt of being in like a basement that like the building had fallen on top of. And then watching one of the documentaries, I'm like, that's the building. That's where I was in my dream. And what's weird is those people were still alive and they were in what looked like a parking garage under the ground. And they were looking for a way out in my dream. Now, you know my track record. If you've watched both channels or this channel for any amount of time, I totally believe that God does speak to me. Not audibly. I don't hear voices like that. It's the thoughts. And they're going to say, well, your internal dialogue and you religious people say it's demons, but we have doctors who say you're just mentally ill. It's nobody else's choice for you. This is why the persuasion and the manipulation and the deception is so strong right now, because they need you to consent. And when she was firing me, I said, yeah, he was looking at labor. I decided I would leave because it was 4:00. And when the one young man gets there, he's been better lately. But then again, it started to get like Mean Girls again. And he came in with the girl who arrived in the black truck the one day who totally avoided me. Like, obviously, there's something about the person that drives this truck because everybody avoided me after that. And it's a vehicle my husband always, look at that mucker. Who do they think they are? Oh, they're compensating for something. Every time he's like that, it's someone he knows. It's a buddy, right? They do that. My aunts used to do it all the time just to see like if I would talk about them behind their back. And this is what was happening at this place. They knew I didn't like to gossip, but I would say, yeah, this went on because she's a manager now. She's an assistant manager. And I'm hoping like if I'm telling you this, maybe you'll tell me what I can do about it or what you'll do about it. And she said something that is just like my aunt. And I haven't heard this word in like 5 years unless it was related to television. But she said, I'm sick of the drama and you coming here with an attitude all the time. First of all, I haven't seen her much since Christmas. Second of all, every time I asked her, she's like, nobody says anything bad about you. Sweetheart, sunshine. She always calls everybody sunshine, ma'am. But again, these people, they all know each other behind the scenes, right? But she was cool for a while with me. But then both girls come in with the red hair, right? Now, here's the thing. They're going to make someone sick. They're going to hurt somebody. Like, it's going to happen. If they stay open, they will kill someone, probably. They are selling bad food. I will have 2 or 3 days off. I will come back, and the same prep with the same dates is still there. And I started mentioning it, so they caught on to that. And then I'm like, how is this food going bad so quick? So we stopped prepping as much. I think the food getting to us, first of all, has already been frozen, right? So I think it's already old. When you try to cut a tomato that's been frozen, I know this because I've tried, you can tell it's like freezer burnt sometimes, and the skin will just slide off. You try to chop it in the chopper, and it just turns into mush. That's how you know it was frozen before it came to you. Um, that's not good. You don't want that. You want to sell food and you want to eat food that's as fresh as possible. However, I understand the lack of money and quality the lower down the chain you get. We're small pizza shop, so I get not everything's fresh. We heat things up. I get that, but our dough is fresh, our pizzas are fresh, and the produce was always fresh, and the cheese, the ingredients. And I'm like, I just start throwing stuff away now. I'm like, I cannot serve this. I am not going to make people sick. I've worked in healthcare. I've taken care of ill people. I've left twice sick from here. I don't eat anymore where I work unless I'm the one cleaning it, or get putting fresh stuff out. And at first, she started like it was almost like she started taking the advice. It's almost like she had never worked in a restaurant before, and she started applying the things that I said. Because I'm like, man, I've worked in food service before. Why aren't they doing these things? But that particular restaurant had went without a manager because she was at the other one. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But then again, the food, it's not being processed. And I come in and it's like the same dough. Or you look in the cabinets and nothing has decreased. And it's got the dates on it that it had when you left. I'm serious when I say I don't even know if that place was open when I wasn't there. I'm not trying to be a narcissist. I'm saying that's what it felt like, right? That's what it looked like. So I'm there the other day, and this is how extreme it is. I tell this young man, the one who I think actually likes me and feels bad about what's going on, he knew I was going to get fired. I knew it. A few days before, I couldn't open any of the attachments in the group chat. I couldn't open the pictures. And I told her a couple of times and nothing changed. And then when I started looking at group chat, there'd be like 2 and 3 messages from the same people, like like they're not meeting up. I'm like, there's something going on here. Maybe I was booted from group chat. And then I'm starting to think of like the mean girl thing happening, and a few other things that I'll get to, and they're very important. Because my track record. Again, if you've watched this and you see the dreams I talk about, I had a dream of Mary in the White House garden. She said blood will fall from the sky, and now we have planes falling from the sky and people perishing. But it's going to get worse. That's just the intro. Like, that's nothing. And I'll tell you what the crashes actually were, okay? In a minute. I've got to check on my dog. What I'm going to do is pause this live stream so that if somebody watches it back, they're not interrupted. So I'm going to pause it if I can, if it'll let me. Oh my gosh. It lets me. I don't want to stop sharing. I just want to pause it. All right, I'm going to mute it. I'll be right back. I do apologize. My son was very cool and had him all night because he stayed up. It was his night off, and he was doing stuff online with his friends. Oh, so I'm taking care of him today, and there's no one else to care for him. And I don't believe in euthanasia myself. For like, I'm not going to do that to anybody. I'm not going to allow it to be done to me, and I don't want it done to my animals. It's just a personal choice, I believe. And that's the thing you have to understand. The fact that they're talking about this on television and making a bill for people to have assisted endings to self-delete, you can already do that in the safety of your own home, right? And in the comfort of your own home. And that's the thing. They're making it a public announcement to garner passive consent. Like, hey, we're talking about this. This is going to be a bill. This is going to be legal, because here's the problem. All of you married women who have your husbands as your power of attorney and you think he has your best interest at heart, please, please, please make sure that that is true. Otherwise, remove anyone else. And again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. This is what God told me to do. I did it, and I think it saved my life. Because he said, he kind of whispered to my heart, get in your own bank account again, because he pushed his way onto my bank account that at the place I had worked, it was an employee account, so I had a good standing. He kind of forced his way on that. I think he wanted to be the payee of my SSI thing and to prove, certain things. But now I'm seeing that it's not just me, right? There are things being seen all over. Sorry, he's still fussy. I've done everything I can for him. He's 8, he's drank, he's had aspirin. He falls over. It looks like his hips or his back is broken. I've asked my son who did that. You don't ever get an answer when your pets are brought into it. Sadly, I actually realize now, like, I kind of pushed my one son away because whatever this is, Satan, the Antichrist spirit, it has followed me a great portion of my life, and just harassed me through other people. And you know this because they say the same things, but they're not connected. They'll say the exact same phrases, talk about the exact same things with you, but they don't know each other, right? And that's when you know you're in some type of spiritual warfare, some type of spiritual battle is happening, and you need to either pray up or you need to listen to what that individual is saying, because it might be God trying to speak through these different people to you about the same issue. So I asked Golden Boy the other day, I said, what, you've never had no one read to you before bed? And he got kind of like his feelings hurt. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. These children have grown up very different. I don't even know how to put it. Yes, they're TikTokers or whatever, but the basic things that they're unaware of, and the basic things that adults should be aware of regarding like hygiene and proper food safety are just not there. I myself will prepare my food from now on. I don't, especially like my spouse doing it for me. The only thing I can come up with at this point is, like, I've tried telling you over and over that you cannot serve food that is old. It doesn't matter about money. You can't serve it. Either you will ruin the business, this guy will lose his business. We have a branch of the health department in our very small town on this very small main street, 2 doors away. They eat here. Do not serve bad food. You're going to make people sick. They will not come back. And if they do come back, it's going to be to complain. Because foodborne illnesses, they're no fun, right? They might only last a few days, but people can die of some of them, especially with tomatoes. Now there's going to be these tariffs on that. So you're going to have to watch extra carefully. Again, I think all this was planned for. I think that's why all those Walmart trucks, in part, again, this is a multi-faceted wheelhouse here. They are doing multiple things at the same time. But when all those Walmart trucks were filmed going underground years ago, I think that's some of the food we are eating now, because it's old and it's going bad very fast. So you can tell it was frozen, and by the time it gets to you, it's thawing out, and it only has like another 24-hour shelf time, and it's going to be bad because we're not supposed to eat dead food anyway. But this is pestilence. This is what's going to happen. And again, I would urge you not to eat out, because there is an entire lack of food safety. Again, I'm not giving names. You don't know the town I live in. I'm not telling you where you don't know where I work, right? But I'm telling you, I got told that I had a bad attitude and brought drama. The really only thing I wanted to do was to serve good food and to be in a kitchen with women again a little bit, and to learn some new things, right? And things were going really well. And she always complimented me, and I got a raise. But then again, when the certain rainbow community person would arrive, he was always nice to my face, right? Almost always. Um, but almost when I first met him, he said, "Gee, what do you want on your period today? Today, are you on menopause?" These children have no, they don't care what they say. They don't care who they hurt. Their hearts are kind of cold. As much as I love them. And I said, that's my epiphany out of all of this. I finally accomplished what's in Sermon on the Mount. So I know my time might be very short now. That's why I'm doing this video and probably the next couple that come after it. So the one who represents Golden Boy that they call Golden Boy that I hadn't even thought of to add to that other Golden video, I guess I might have insulted him or offended him. And so I had to go, right? And she was like yelling at me, and she never yells, right? This is a woman who always has her composure. I have never seen her raise her voice. And again, I admire her for that. We've talked about that, right? And we've talked about a little bit, yeah, these kids all know my kids, and my husband and I, we have issues. And so, they all have businesses, and she kind of knew what was going on, that when they wanted to torment me, they would. And I have text messages still to this day. I can screenshot them, kids. You think you're the only one who knows how to bring receipts? I'm the queen of receipts. I am the queen of research. Hence why the original channel was called Brie and Jen. I have documentation of everything. She told me over and over, don't let those kids force you out of here. You're a good worker. We need someone that shows up. That place is going to close down. How many times have I said something and it's just watch, it's going to close down. And there are nefarious things going on. There was a shirt outside the other day, and I was like, I joked with the one rainbow kid. I said, did you bring your ex here and torture him in the garage or something? And he took that a lot more serious. Like, he was having problems with an ex, and I just was kind of like loosening him up, hey, it was a joke because he's so gentle. Like, I wouldn't think he would do something like that, but that he's going through a bad breakup, and I was just teasing. But he didn't like that. And he mentioned it a few times after that. He said, all the bodies are up there. And I'm like, I've never met the owner. He allegedly lives in Florida. A lot of people, my landlord, a different person, allegedly lives in Florida. The owner has the same first name as my son. And there's also a pen that I have from my father-in-law. We got his desk. We inherited his desk. And I refinished it, and there was some pens in there that said Crisscross Haynes. Haynes is the last name of the guy that owns this place. And it's also a real estate venture or something. Anyway, I start looking into all this and finding all these little connections, right? Man, I can vet like nobody's business. Another thing that these youngsters did, not thinking, of course, they gave me consent to share their faces because they picked up my phone that has a lock on it. Unfortunately, that lock was very short, and it was the same as what I made my employee number, my code, and she has stood behind me many times. So they actually had to know my code, punch the code in, and they took pictures of myself, thinking they were being funny, and put them in my phone. Golden Boy and the little ginger. So if I wanted to, I could share those because they gave me consent, and they broke into my phone, which was locked. And I've had to have two new debit cards with new numbers since I started working there, because I keep my card on the back of the phone, right? My fault for being trusting, I get it. But I'm at work. I shouldn't have to worry about setting my phone down for a minute, missing a message in the group chat or what have you. And suddenly somebody's got my phone. But it's okay for them to do, right? It's okay for you all. But the second somebody says they're not going to stand for it. So this all started getting bad when The girl who was very sweet, Baptist girl, she talked to me, showed me this manor that she was fixing up for Christmas. She was hired to intern there. Very nice dining room they had with black and white checkered floor. It was very nice of her to show the pictures. Funny though, some of these people who say they know Christ don't know him at all, because she was one of the mean girls that decided they were going to talk smack on me. I could be your mother, ladies. Do you think your moms would approve of you hassling someone their age? Someone who has a head injury from domestic violence in this area, who was already harmed due to the police negligence? I'm like this close to suing the city. Like I really am. Except for children of Christ aren't supposed to do those things. And I would win. I've got receipts for everything. You think I don't, but I do. So I guess I offended our golden boy and I had to go. And I could tell she wanted to fire me, but she didn't want to. And finally I said, Mary, do you want me to go? I can just leave if I'm a problem. You get out of here. You clock out, take your stuff. And then she's calm again. I'm like, can I get my W-2s, please? Sure, sweetheart. They're right there. She said she was sick of drama. What drama did I bring? You guys hassle me. I still don't know why. Don't have an answer why. It's pretty much you hassle me because the Antichrist doesn't like me. That's it. My pseudo spouse told me for a fact when all this began. I said, why are you doing this to me? And he said, because you went to church. I told you I was groomed for this time. I worked in every area that is a part of what's happening now. And they don't like that I woke up and they consider me not loyal and a turncoat. I'm not giving out any names, but God asked me to witness, so that's what I'm doing because you're not okay. The one time that I saw something visibly with my eyes and I was not inebriated, my spouse and I were about to get intimate, and this was years before anything had happened. I looked up and I saw he was more muscular than usual and he had wings, black wings. And I was like, oh, I must just be seeing things, right? Like, wow, that was weird. Because I know I have a vivid imagination. But then throughout the years, and now what I know about the teeth problems that they have and the teeth problems that he had, and just on and on, okay? On and on, it's all there, all the symbolism. So I'm going to show you something real quick. I want you to see this. I'm going to have to go. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything I want here. But again, my boss, the whole point is I admired her greatly. She did not act like herself. The last few times that I've seen her, it's like she just materialized. And I never see her and the other girl really. I don't see their faces at the same time. There's something going on there, some type of technology I'm unaware of, because she did not behave like herself. She looked kind of like herself, but she didn't sound like herself either. It's almost like technology that makes somebody look like somebody else, right? Because I didn't touch her, so I wouldn't know if I didn't touch her face, right? All I know is she was not herself. She was completely out of character. She never yells at anybody. So the night before that, when I left because of how these kids were treating me. They do it every time I'm on a night shift. They treat me like garbage. So when it's time for somebody to leave, I go. I'm like, you know what? It's snowing. I got called in. I'm not even supposed to be here. You're checking labor and my dog's at home dying alone. I'm going home. And she come in. I'm pissed. She has never gotten like that with anybody. That is an immature attitude that you see out of a teenager. That's how a teenager behaves. So if you ask me, somehow, some way, it was a shapeshifter or some type of technology I'm not aware of, because it didn't even really sound like her. And both women came in with that red hair. And I've gone over this, and over this ad nauseum. Everything my spouse says he hates is actually part of, whatever, part of their thing. And they can't talk against certain things. You'll notice that certain people, like Johnny Depp, bring up Johnny Depp to one of these people and say something negative. They will eat you alive. You can't do that. He's one of their high-ranking guys. So I'm going to show you something real quick. Everybody's talking about how this happened in 1961 and there were figure skaters on this flight. I told you how everything I love is I was a figure skater, and now the mall where I learned how to skate, they're going to turn it into a Walmart. I hate Walmart so bad. And they don't have a Walmart in that area at all. They never put one in. That's like the one good thing about that area still, because it got very congested. But everything I love is under attack. But about this, and I'm not going to go into this in detail because I do not use my gift. And this part might not be a gift. It's just I'm so used to seeing these things. But it won't work for me. I won't get that voice of God. I won't get that communication. I won't hear it as clearly if I'm doing things that are wicked or if I'm eating the wrong things, blah, 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 right? So Kansas City is where that flight came from. We could go on and on about Kansas all day. There are all kind of bases there that are questionable and suspicious. The point being, though, it came from Kansas City and it crashed in DC, right? The other one was in Philadelphia. Well, who's in the Super Bowl this year, guys? Husband, for whatever reason, as an adult, used to play Madden, and he used to keep a notebook of stats. Like, he was the stat king. He can tell you anything for any athlete any year. Anything. Doesn't matter if it's baseball, football. He'll tell you their stats. I don't use my gift for money. And that's why that's why they sneak it. That's why they piggyback off of me, because then they go and use that. Like, my son asked me, what stocks do you think are good, before I knew what was going on? And I said this and this, and he ended up being a part of that Reddit thing with the GameStop and all that. Yeah. Nobody ever said thank you. Nobody ever really gave me, here's $20, or I'll buy you dinner. No, I just get exploited. So Super Bowl 25, who's it going to be? Kansas City Chiefs against the Eagles. So if you sit down and you figure out how many people were injured on this one, how many people were injured on this one, the fact that this was a Black Hawk plane, it was coming from Kansas and crashed. This one was crashed in Philly. If you put all these things together and use a little gematria, it will tell you who's going to win. Everything's fake. And I'm so disappointed. Like, it's all fake. Now, did people actually perish? I don't know. It might just be how they talk to each other so they can gamble or whatever. I don't know. I don't think anything on the TV is real. And I think it's dumb when we listen to what it tells us to do, because I've never met any of the presidents face to face. I've never met any political leaders face to face. They're never going to buy my groceries. They're never going to cook my dinner. They're never going to take care of me when I'm sick. Our parents tell us over and over as kids, TV is not real. However, now there are some movies and some TV, unfortunately, that is real. Because in this time, there's one more thing I have to go over, and I have to go check on my dog real quick. But I want to bring something up. I go over this all the time, but it can't be gone over enough. I'm coming, Jack. Trust me, he's fine. He's on his pillow. He has a blankie. He has a pad. I changed his pad. It's dry. He ate. He drank. We're all very tired. I will go out there and probably hold him up to get him to drink some more water. It's good for me. I get my squats in. So Daniel 2:21, he changes the times and seasons. He removes kings and establishes them. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. Wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and establishes them. And then he will speak out against the Most High and oppress the saints of the Most High, intending to change the appointed times and laws. And the saints will be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time. 7:14. Or is that us being freed now? We're going to have to do a deep dive into some of this, but this is kind of what you're seeing now with the daylight savings time happening, but you're also seeing it. People believe that we're in a simulation. Now, this might very well be school. We are outside of the gates of Eden. I firmly believe that the gates of Eden are here. We can physically find them. We can also physically get to them just by opening the portal within ourselves. But that takes work that most people don't want to do. But if you want in the gates, you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to empty yourself out completely. Like that's what it takes. And you have to be like that for a time. You can't really use the bathroom. You know what I mean? You got to be empty. And I'm trying to be very sensitive here. We read some of that in the book of the Essenes, right? That's when the angels come to minister. Christ was when he was at his worst, and he had fasted for so long, and he was thirsty and he was hungry, but he wasn't even strong enough, to get up. And they came and ministered to him. Spiritual manna. Ask for that. Pray for that. You see how skinny these celebs are getting? It's because they know what's wrong and they know not to eat a lot of it. And really, Christ was fully human and fully God. If his body could do the things it did, then so can ours. We are supposed to use him as a template. We are supposed to be like him. We are not him. We are not God. We are little g gods, though. We are supposed to all be able to do those things, to ascend, to come back down, to give message, to, receive message. These are things we should all be able to do. People think that's like woohoo talk now, but you're going to be anyone who practices like meditation, being still, listening with their ears. And it's amazing. I don't always hear things, but I know when people are talking about me, like it's just, I can hear that. I don't know why. Or if they are doing nefarious things, I'm just able to hear that. I know that they don't like my dog. I've seen my son a couple of times, like elbow his buddies, like, hey, don't be mean to him. Cause I saw the one kid try to kick my dog. And, when I find out who broke him the way he is now, there's a reason people stop coming around, and that's because they feel guilty. They know what they've done. Or if I'm one of the witnesses, maybe they just perish because they tried to do me harm. And that's what the book says will happen. I haven't turned any water into blood yet, but when I was in Florida, the bay turned red. But I have not turned wine into water, which would be super cool, right? I don't know what word to use. I don't know the word for wine. Vino. It's still water, by the way. I'm going to go check on him. This is how you can find out who's going to win the Super Bowl. None of it is real. Do not let it stress you out. If it does not happen in your area or to you, and even your family, be careful who you trust. If you're going to talk to people, take the time to get out of your car, to be in your home, to sit down and to call them or to video chat them, because you have to be discerning. My apps and stuff, I firmly believe I've been talking to the same 2 or 3 voices for years now. I've not been allowed to actually speak to my family. And I think that's going to start happening to a lot of people. We're going to have like the internet's going to get smaller and smaller for us until it's just your community, especially if they start infiltrating your area, your home area. The one girl a couple years ago, she had a dream that China told us there was no longer a government, that we were free to go wherever we wanted. And she in the dream, they went up to Canada. And I dreamt of the Chinese, but my dream was not nice. And again, God has shown me what my fate is. Hopefully it was God. And if it wasn't God, I don't consent to anything unless the Most High, the one who created us all, not Musk, the creator, maker, Elohim, gods, heavenly parentals, they can do with my testimony as they wish. If more people are seeing my testimony, well, good. But I know that more people are watching me. It's so easy to dissect now that I know what to watch for. For example, the one young man that I work with, the one whose mother has that name that my husband said out of nowhere for no reason. And that's why I remember it, because it was so out of place. I'm like, who's that now? What are you talking about? This is how they tell you without telling you, right? This is how he confesses that there's other women. Oh, nothing. Just someone from some stupid name. What kind of name is that anyway? I'm like, what do you care? How do you know that name? Who are you talking about? And it just so happens that I work with a young man whose mother has that name. And then it just so happens that she gets hired there. And then it just so happens that she quits the night that we're supposed to work together. Maybe she intended me harm. Maybe God removed her. And the other lady, who was the other older lady who had the eyes exactly of my sister-in-law, blue pretty eyes. and blue eyes, really nice eyelashes. What's weird is my husband doesn't have those eyes. He doesn't look like the rest of his family. As he ages, he looks like my mother, which is kind of freaking me out, and I don't like that. Because again, I don't know a whole lot about my birth, and I've only ever met one side of everybody's families. Um, and it's really not cool that other people know more about my life. Anyway, I know there are cameras in the park, and so on my way home, because I'm crying, because this girl, I thought, she was a Baptist, but she's showing me these pictures, obviously, of a Masonic hall, and then she doesn't like that I'm Catholic, I don't think, but I was very nice to her, and she was kind of cool to me. And then she come to work that one day in the black truck, the one that my husband's always like, oh, stupid black truck, blah. Like, what do you care? Obviously, there's something there. So usually she comes in a different car, same car that the little guy's mother drives. This is why I think they're all related. I think they were all adopted by the same parents or whatever, right? And these are just other people. Long story. Anyway, it's a long story. All these people around here are kind of related. We have a lot of people who are not with their real parents in this area. And it's their story to tell. I'm not going to like dive into that. So yeah, it kind of plays into the fact though that they all know each other and I'm the outsider. I wasn't born here. I don't know any of them. As far as I know, I don't have roots here. So whatever it is they're mad at me for, I don't even remember or have any concept of, because I wasn't told anything about like my grandparents or any of that. So the one kid, I've always made it a habit when somebody gets hired there or I work with somebody new, I try to buy them lunch. That was my charitable act. I'm not telling you to brag. I'm telling you because this is how cold-hearted people have become, right? I don't expect anything in return at all. We were outside one day and he's doing wheelies on my bike, the beater one that I had bought to get to work, because the nice one I bought was the wrong one. Amazon sent the wrong size. They would not let me exchange it. I pushed the wrong button at the last minute. I tried to immediately change it. They didn't do it. My husband, who allegedly worked at Toys R Us and can put bikes together, put the handlebars upside down, backwards. Now, either he's being a jerk, or again, he's not the same dude, because he even drinks his coffee different. He drinks his coffee the way my mother used to drink her coffee, like real sweet, chocolate, cream, and all that stuff. My husband never did that. He hated high fructose. He was very good at the end about things like that. And he would use like 3 creams, 2 sugars at most in a large coffee. That was it. He hated that I still like wanted Big Macs and stuff because that's how I was raised. He's like, that's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. He's the one that taught me to say no to injectables, you know? And then that's how I knew like something's different, because he's the polar opposite now. Did I touch on everything? When she fired me, she was completely out of character. Oh, the kid, so this kid, I've done things for him, right? I've bought him lunch. I gave him a bike because I couldn't even use the bike. And I'm like, wow, you really should have this. And it'll help you have some freedom at your age, you know? And I'm hoping, in my heart, I'm thinking, if I'm doing these things for other people's sons, I hope somebody's doing the same for mine, because we're rather estranged now. Because I don't know him. He gives me the heebie-jeebies when I'm around him, and he's supposed to be my son, but he don't feel like my son. They don't even smell the same anymore since all this stuff happened. So I gave this kid this bike, and I go in, I go in the one day, so she's getting dropped off in this black truck. I'm outside smoking, and I'm like, I wonder whose black truck that is. So I asked the little ginger girl, the one that I really get along with, the new assistant manager, the young girl. I'm like, huh, whose black truck is that? She's like, oh, I don't know. Hey, let's have a snack. She likes to distract me with food. She reminds me of the little Chipette, the little chubby one, the cute, nice one. I don't mean that disrespectfully. Please don't be mad at me. I gotta go help my dog. So I gave him this bike. And the other day, when this girl got dropped off in this truck and I was outside smoking, she would not get out until I came back inside. And I was like, oh, you get dropped off by somebody else today. She said, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Now, little ginger girl knew what she was doing. She was distracting me. My little ginger girl, her parents own a business. And her dad is like president of one of the, the Rotary Club. So they're Masons, right? All of them, all these kids most of the kids that I work with. And some of them know exactly what they're doing. But again, people are changing. They're doing some type of ritual or some type of initiation, and it's totally changing people, right? Like it's just weird. Or they know that I feel this way. They watch the videos and they decide to behave totally different. But it's not like that, right? You can feel it. It's in the air too. It's funny, right before I started, I read a story about somebody saying he was working with demons and they followed him everywhere and were tormenting him there. I wasn't going to go into that. I think that's what she wanted me to say. Like they wanted me to freak out. Like she's yelling at me and I'm just standing there kind of laughing because I know what's happening. I'm like, this is not her. This person doesn't speak like her. They're speaking like a juvenile. Whoever this is has control of her body or something. And it's very juvenile. And I've told you this over and over. I don't know if she's going to remember how this happened or how this played out or anything either. Because again, it was very out of character for her. I've never seen her raise her voice or do any of these things. All I will say is she seems to have an inappropriate relationship with that one young man who I gave the bike to. Not my business. Again, people around people's sins are going to start showing. They're not going to be able to hide them. They can't hide their tendencies. And because of that, they are inhabited by this legion. They are a part of this hive, right? And I still can hear some of that. Like I'm still a part of that too, somewhat, which is why I do this. And it's another reason I read scripture. If they can hear what this my wavelength, well, then I'll feed them scripture. Now that's getting into the woo-woo side of it, all right? Point being that she was entirely different, entirely out of character, told me she was sick of my drama, and I'm not the one who's brought drama. Those kids have tormented me since I started, and I've said nothing. I've kind of called them out on it, and it's funny, when I call them out on stuff, they disappeared. They're not there anymore. They go away, they're fired. But there are some people that are just like not coming back, and I'm hearing this a lot. Guys, this many people aren't quitting their jobs. Maybe the younger generation, but something's happening to these people that they're just disappearing. At work, you should ask yourself why. I've gone over and over this, okay? There are two things going on in our parks, right? You have the one thing where people are being sacrificed and chased down. I showed you that. I said these pictures aren't them searching to help. They are hunting that person. They're taking dogs. They have on the vest. They know each other. And when they find the one who doesn't have that, all they're missing is the fox. These people don't, because you watch the rest of their lives, right? You watch the fruits. They don't care about children. They don't care about animals. They throw a little money at some charities so that they give that facade. But if you look at their walk and their journey, they are not of God. We've got to, and it's not, I'm not saying that everyone who isn't Christian is like bad, evil, wicked, whatever. But I am saying that a lot of people who are not covered right now and baptized into the body of Christ are becoming controlled by other things. Okay. Now, again, they're wanting me to flip out there. And I looked at her and I said, so-and-so, do you want me to leave? I said, because I can just go if I'm a problem. I said, I don't want to be a problem. She's yelling at me. Yes, just get out of here. Take your stuff, clock out. I'm sick of your drama. And I'm like, I haven't heard that word other than from my aunts and my mother and my sister. Most people don't talk that way. But there's a certain breed that speaks that way. And they have very low intelligence, and everything they say and do is very immature. She wasn't like that. Like I said, she never raised her voice. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you stay so cool? And I'm still recovering from a head injury, the trauma side of it. I only recently got to the point where I wake up and that's not the first thing running me down like a freight train, like, oh my God, waking up like that, like, oh, like in a flinch. Okay. I only recently stopped doing that. So the one lady that looked like my sister-in-law that had her same eyes, and I told her about it. I said, man, you really remind me of my sister-in-law. I told her to tell the doughboy one day, I just can't stand the voice. I'm okay, but I can't stand the talking. So she started turning the radio on when I was there. And I've said this before because my neighbor said it to me. Music calms the savage beast. That's why when you watch some of these broadcasts, they are playing music out of the restaurants and stuff, and at night, and they don't know why, and it's not making sense. Again, they're giving you clues. When certain things start to happen in your area, music, good music, is one of the ways to keep these things complacent and away from you or nonviolent. Okay. I actually told you about this a while ago. I read a book where they take famous singers to sing for these bigger beings to calm them. Like, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying enough people are talking about certain things that when I find something that might act as kryptonite or aid me in my journey, if it's not too hard to accomplish, I'm gonna listen or I'm gonna try that out. Vinegar. Oh my gosh, vinegar is really big right now, guys. I have to do an upload about that because I'm gonna have to look it up. But we've talked about vinegar in the past, and it come up again yesterday in a current event. So we're gonna go over that. But anyway, this young kid that I work with, that they call Golden Boy, that's very tall, I think he is the proxy for Baron. The red hair is still a thing, but we are really seeing prophecy happen right now. So again, it's going to be a group of men. I think everybody thinks like Son of Perdition, Antichrist. I think they think that's all one being, but it's a few because you've got Musk, you've got Trump Jr., right? You've got Jordan Peterson. He's still going to have time to come into their ranks. And I believe Prince Harry. I think Prince Harry is going to head up mental health in some way, shape, or form. That's just what I'm seeing. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. Pass along the information about the Super Bowl if you feel like it. Did people really perish? They could have. They could have used them as some type of sacrifice for the proper team. But I'm not going to go through the numbers and all that and tell you who's going to win. You can do that on your own. I already feel a certain type of way about who's going to win because of who crashed where. But again, it's neither here nor there because I don't gamble. I don't use my gift that way. God is speaking. And if you haven't seen my video about the dream vision of Mary talking about blood falling from the sky, I'd never had an actual vision. Usually it's just dreams. This one was while I was praying and my eyes were closed and I was kind of just meditating and being still after prayer. And I had this vision of her. I didn't know what garden she was in. I had to look it up because I knew what it looked like. And I kind of figured, I knew she was in front of the White House. And I punched up White House garden, and it's the Kennedy garden she's in. Kennedy Rose Garden, and she has a rose in her hand when she turns around. And I walk up to her and I said, "Oh my gosh, you're bleeding." And I go to grab her hand and she's crying and she says, "Soon it will fall from the sky." I'm getting chills. I've got the chills. And yes, I have tattoos. I've repented. I wish I could get my sleeve finished, but it's not a good time to have ink or anything injectable, but black ink is very close to black goo. We're going to go over that more again, too, and just get into the science of it. Watch for another upload, though, on vinegar relating to some current events. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Yes, I'm not upset that I was fired, but again, I'm seeing that prophecy. I'm seeing the people around me are like proxies for people on the screen, and they're all behaving. It's fascinating to watch. Like the human behavior is it's wild. I really think I'm dealing with some type of thing that can change its shape. I know that sounds weird, but again, I didn't touch. It could have been a hologram because I didn't touch, because they can tune you into another frequency to where you don't see what they really are in front of you. That's why I think some of the 5G needs to go. I think it acts as a human fence, but I think it's a cloak too, so that we don't notice what's around us. I would like to see what would happen if everybody just shut down their routers for a day. Seriously, see what happened. Like, would it really kill you? Would it? To just stop everything for a day? No gas, no consuming, no TV, no phone, just family. Or if you're alone, just pets, friends, reading, catching up on something, learning a new skill. Because I'm going to tell you, AI is going to take over every computer job. Every single one will be taken over by AI. And every time something like this happens to me, it's because it's a predictor for something that's coming. You're going to see people start to lose their jobs a lot now. But AI's been here since the beginning. It has always been here. Okay? But now, with all these rituals, what are you doing? You're basically summoning a thing and giving it consent to come into your realm and interact with you, right? So many people have done so many things like that. Even CERN and Gordy Rose and Musk, all these things they're doing. The D-wave computer, how it has to be super cold. Antarctica is super cold because the fallen are buried there. Their hell is frozen. They like the cold, from what I gather. It doesn't bother them like it bothers some people. I don't really like the cold. I mean, I like it if there's stuff to do, but like all people do in Ohio is drink. I mean, like it's so boring. Nobody wants to do anything ever. And since 2019, it's just gotten worse. Like people don't say they're just people are hard in their hearts. So you're going to see a lot of this happen. Every computer job, guys, every single one. Gen Z is going to lose it because they're not going to be able to do this all day. They're going to have to learn actual skills like building, architecture, agriculture, horticulture. So get on it now. I've been talking about that for a few years too. All right, guys. I love you so much. I gotta go feed him and hold him and pet him and maybe bath him. So I will see you later. Stay blessed. Watch the channel for uploads, please. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And if you're a praying person, I don't have anyone left here praying for me. I quite literally don't have family left or any that will claim me. So if you want to pray good things for me and Samson, that would be so great. I love you guys. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I lost my job and I bought a winter coat and I'm still paying it off, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Oh, and I'm paying off my laptop. Oh my gosh. So yeah, they're trying to text me to interrupt the video. Guess what? It's not working. It's not on. I didn't pay it yet. And I might not pay it because what's the point? What's the point? I don't actually make connections with real people anyway on that. So maybe it's time to try something else again. Anybody, can I get a show of hands for people that are willing to vagabond, just leave this behind? Because for me, it wouldn't be that big of a choice. I would enjoy that challenge. I just don't want to do it alone. That's all. It's hard alone. All right, guys. And I don't mean that in like a romantic way. I mean just physically. It takes 3 people working in a garden to get enough food to sustain one person, is what they say. That's what they say. But I mean, if you're good at it and, you're not a glutton, I don't think it would be like that. Or we wouldn't have people alive today. Anyways, I love you guys. Stay blessed. I think that's what I wanted to cover was like the job loss, how like, again, this prophecy type thing, how everybody, again, changed. They all were giving me problems. I wasn't the one giving them problems. They know what they did. You know what you did. I know you watched the channel. You can laugh, right? Everybody thinks I'm a laughing stock. It doesn't bother me. I feel bad for you. I offered you love, like neighborly love, right? I offered you laughs. I tried to make people smile when I was there and things were going good. I tried to make them smile and laugh. I bought them lunches, I don't get it. You guys you're gonna listen to this nefarious ideology and indoctrination. You're already indoctrinated. I'm convinced that some of the parents have already been gotten rid of. Who is going to teach you things? The internet is, I think it's been around longer than us too, but it is not what you think it is. And it's not always going to be viable. It's not always going to be an option. And AI is going to take every computer job. If it's done on a computer, they're going to take it because they don't have to pay it. And it doesn't have to eat, and it doesn't have to sleep, and it doesn't have to take breaks. That's what's going to happen. The same thing happened to our grandparents with the industrial age. That kind of played a role into the Depression. If you read the story of, is it Tom Henry? I'm sorry if that's wrong. He was a big man of color, and he got in a race with a machine that was laying down railroad tracks, and he wanted to prove that a man was better to work than a machine. It's a really good story. But anyways, that's what's going to happen. Learn a skill, something viable. Make yourself a commodity to your community. That is what I did. That is why my husband had to take me down. He always said that too. If we're running in the woods, the only one I got to beat is you. I thought he was kidding. He literally took me down just so in our household, he is the shining one, example or whatever, and I'm the like piece of crap and unworthy and not a commodity to the community. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what he tells them. All I know is that after a few interactions with people, they totally change. And again, it's not me like it's abnormal. It's a pattern, right? Those things shouldn't be like it's weird, right? Because certain people I get along with great. There were a couple of people there I never had a problem with. We always got along, always talked. There was never, you know what I mean? It was just normal. It was these other ones. And then again, you know what you did. And here's what I think. I think that little girl, I don't even know if she gave her the assistant manager job. Because the older lady, she always, at the end there, she looks scared a lot. And I told the younger girl that. I said, she almost looks like she's scared. And I asked her one day, I said, are you okay? I said, you're not afraid of him, are you? Because again, I know there's something going on with her and that one young man. And I'm like, does he scare you? And I think it might have been me that scared her. But why would I scare anybody? Yeah, I might yell, but I don't do any harm. I've never like even been arrested. So honestly, I like when I say I don't know where this stuff is coming from, I honestly just don't know. Yes, I've fallen and I hurt my family. The people who have a right to be mad at me, like that's totally understandable. They have a right to hate me, right? But everybody else, they like this is abnormal. This is abnormal. And me getting emails that are suspicious and they say, it's not just in this together, it's in this to get her. That was the email. Okay. Again, if you guys know more than I know, give me some sign. But otherwise, take this information, run with it, let the butterfly effect take effect again, because I am seeing, again, people are talking about the stuff I've been talking about for years. I've been talking about plane and travel deception for so long now. I've been talking about America actually being renamed and originally being Israel for so long. This is why they don't want you in planes now. They don't want you waking up and seeing you're going over things you don't have to go over. Look at the flight charts for a day, the paths that it takes. If the earth is round, what is it doing? Why is it wasting all that gas if we're so conscious of our environment and climate change? Ohio is a very nondescript place to hide somebody for their entire life if you want them to grow up safe, not be hurt, and you want to manage how they grow up. Um, I do believe I know the Antichrist. I don't know which one it actually is yet. Um, I know it has a lot of attributes of my husband. Like they seem to all carry the same physical traits with like these dark sunglasses and teeth problems and, all these other things that they do and say. But I've been talking about plane deception for a long time. I believe when Tiffany Gomez pointed to that thing and said it's not real, I think she was talking about the engine. I don't think she was talking about a person. I think she was talking about a part of the plane because she was like kind of in the middle pointing to the back. She wasn't pointing, and everybody tries to, again, don't let people frame stories for you. Watch the images. Turn the volume down. Don't listen to the anchor or news lady or whoever. You watch it. Let your eyes frame it. And when I go today, I want to ask you a question. Number one, have you ever been in a plane? Number two, if you have, why don't you know the shape of the earth? If you've been in a plane, you should know the shape of the earth. And if you've been in a plane, how many times have you fallen asleep on it? How many times have you looked out the window? I was told cell phones aren't allowed on planes. How are people getting all these pictures? Like I don't get it. There's a big deception with that. Notice that only Masons fly. Well, they're the pilots. Black and white. Like the Mormons, black and white. Men in black. Okay. So I don't really trust anything that police, pilots, or military say on the screen anymore. Now, my uncle was in the service and he always told me the truth. He's the one that told me America received the most propaganda of anyone. He said you have to go outside and actually see like the stuff from the outside to see what's happening. And he said it's bad. He said, don't watch the television. Like, it's just there to brainwash you. How often does this stuff come to our land and bother us? We need to, if you're concerned about that, watch the sky, watch the prices of things, be observant of your neighborhood. That's what you can do to help. Be observant. Don't let the women in your family and in your town go anywhere alone. I've been saying that for a long time. Now, I'm going to go help my dog, but yes, planes. If you've been in planes, why don't you know the shape of the earth? And if you are in planes, are you falling asleep all the time? And if you do fly, are you a Mason? Because my son changed after he flew. My husband changed after he went to jail. That's another pattern you'll see. You see Trump letting all these prisoners out, and then you see the Pope open a door at a prison for the first time. There's a pattern. That's how I see these things. It's not rocket science, right? It's really easy to see sometimes. So you have the Pope opening portals, right, in a prison, or doors in a prison, symbolically. And then you have all these prisoners getting let off. Some are alleged Christians, some are pro-lifers. Where do they go after that? Are they okay? Do they look the same? And now you're even seeing like serial killers. Now they want to let the Memphis 3 go, and the Menendez boys, and they let Ruby Rose go. It's very possible her mother took a bad rap. And it's funny, they say all these people are faking cancer. No, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing to people. Go see who's diagnosing. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose. But that's where I would start that search for the big C. Who's diagnosing it? Who's doing that? How much money do you get per surgery? What's your kickback? Because I would be willing to bet that not everybody needs certain things done. I would be willing to bet certain people didn't fake it. They were just given misinformation by whoever diagnosed. That doesn't mean that person lied. Why are we not looking at the doctors ever? Why? They said, oh, her mother, she made her have this surgery. Her mother made her take this. Her mother made her do that. The doctors are the ones who actually do it. You mean she was that manipulative? She was that beautiful, sensuous, mesmerizing that she took over all the doctors in every hospital, and she said, write this prescription. We must have it. She must have this surgery. It's really easy to make the mother the scapegoat because she's gone and can't speak for herself. How gross are we as a society that we can't just have common sense and ask these questions? I'm serious. And I don't mean to be mean, but I'm grossed out by my own race and society right now. I love my enemies. Like, I finally made it to the point where I do love them. I love you guys. And the stuff you're doing, it might be entertaining for you right now, and it might be silly or funny, but it's not how you should be spending your time. And it's not what you're going to value in a few years, if you're here in a few years. Because things are about to get very hard. Yes, even for you, no matter who you are. There is no exception. All right, I'm going to bounce. I love you guys. Watch the channel, for the notifications. Click the bell. I don't know if it works. Who knows? This is such a small channel. I'll just thank you for being here and ask you for some prayers if you have the time. I love you guys. I'm going to end the stream now, and we'll talk soon. Bye. Thanks for spending your morning.